situations for the mentally retarded. And I think particularly at Willowbrook that we have a situation that borders on a snake pit. Many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower. And I think it's long overdue that something be done about it.
I first heard of this big place with the pretty sounding name because of a call I received from a member of the Willowbrook staff, Dr. Michael Wilkins. The doctor invited me to see the conditions he was talking about, so unannounced and unexpected by the school administration, we toured building number 6. The doctor had warned me that it would be bad. It was horrible.
In this world, there are certain words that can set people's teeth clenching. Within the developmental disability community, if you say the word Willowbrook, it brings about a cascade of feelings and images. Willowbrook was a developmental center on Staten Island where individuals with developmental disabilities, back then we called them mentally retarded, imbeciles, we had horrible labels and names to try and call them the other.
The system is feeding on itself. In other words, there isn't any alternative for parents that need help.
When the Willowbrooks, the residential facilities for people with developmental disabilities, were implemented, it was because the research at the time said that people with developmental disabilities needed specialized places where they can receive specialized services. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way it was planned. Never had the resources it needed, never had the follow-through of the vision, and so the Willowbrooks of the world became warehouses.
A very concerned group of parents, along with an investigative journalist, Geraldo Rivera, actually brought cameras into Willowbrook.
A court case was brought by families and advocates in 1972 on behalf of the 5,400 people living at Willowbrook. 3 years later, a consent decree was signed, directing New York State to move the residents into community-based housing and day programs. New York partnered with many small nonprofit agencies, providing them with funds and technical assistance to help them develop day activities and group homes. It was a hopeful time. Advocates believed that things would be better for people with developmental disabilities, and they were. Most people had clean, safe places to live, received needed therapies, and had a better life.
After Willowbrook happened and the decree came about, we took some years to plan, and we began to shut down the institution. And part of that planning was beginning day programs so people would no longer be on the ward and be with the same people day in and day out.
So where does the money that funds these programs come from? The money comes jointly from the federal government and from state Medicaid dollars. The Office for Persons with Developmental Disabilities, OPWDD, is the state entity that oversees the distribution of funds to various nonprofit disability agencies, as well as to state-run programs. The money is then paid to the agency which provides services to people with developmental disabilities. The agency then pays their staff, overhead, and other expenses. It's been 47 years since RFK called Willowbrook a snake pit, 40 years since Geraldo Rivera's documentary exposed the devastating conditions there, and 25 years since Willowbrook Institution finally closed. But we can't just rest on our laurels. Although some people with developmental disabilities are supported to live self-determined lives, many are still treated as second-class citizens, without real choice in where they live or how they spend their time. Historic changes are coming. Under the direction of the governor, OPWDD is in the process of transforming the delivery of all supports and services into a managed care system, using the People First waiver.
In many ways, we've caught up with civil rights. We understand the color of skin shouldn't change being a member of the community. We recognize that gender shouldn't interfere with being part of a community. And finally, please goodness, we have realized that someone's IQ or level of functioning should also not interfere with them being a normal member of our community.
In 1999, the Supreme Court ruled that services to persons with disabilities should be in the most integrated setting possible. These suits, called Olmstead suits, continue to be brought around the country to enable people with all types of disabilities to live in their communities.
New York State has begun to think that they would like to ignite the spark for each of these hundreds of voluntary agencies to reinvent themselves and to think about supporting individuals with developmental disabilities in a new way.
Center-based programs, also called traditional or legacy programs, include residential and day habilitation. These services worked well for some, but many felt that their lives were too constricted. People didn't have a choice of what they did, where they went, and who they spent their time with. Those who could not verbally communicate their frustrations sometimes expressed themselves with unsafe or inappropriate behaviors.
My youngest daughter was born with a developmental disability, and she's also medically frail. I was up at this large agency and I met an individual who I was service coordinating for who has the same disability that my daughter does, which is Down syndrome. And I just had a quick, 20-year forward type of vision. And thought, I really don't want this to be where she is 20 years from now. It was a smaller institutional type setting. They got to go out into the community for maybe an hour and a half each day, if that. If you had behavioral issues, you definitely didn't go out into the community even for the hour and a half.
The group moves from one setting to another setting, and the schedules really are determined by staffing issues and by transportation issues. People really tend to do the same thing every day of their life for years and years and years.
My son, Jake, has been very clear about what his wishes are, even though Jake was born 3 months early and he has intellectual, physical, behavioral, and medical disabilities. He has been very clear about how he wants his life to spool out.
As her son Jake entered his senior year of high school, Maggie Hoffman researched options in the adult service world.
The new transition coordinator for the school said she knew of a progressive agency with a community rehabilitation program that she was jazzed up to go with me to go and see. This is not hyperbole, this is just the facts. We walked in and we were warmly welcomed by the program manager, and there were 2 huge stained beige couches. And there was a gigantic, almost jumbotron big screen TV. And there were young adults with developmental disabilities sort of slumped in comfortable postures on these big beige couches, watching on the TV Richard Simmons exercising on the TV. So he's in his hot pants and he's moving and he's exercising. And the individuals were slumped, overweight, not engaged or involved, but they were seeing life passing them by where other people were exercising. That was this new and improved day program, and the transition coordinator and I were shocked and defeated.
Take care of you.
Alrighty.
Depends on keeping it plugged, doesn't always work.
You have your shopping list? You have everything?
Yeah, that's fine.
Alright, so we're gonna head to work first, and then we're gonna do food shopping, because we
Right,
don't
but I
really...
have to get my...
We have 2 children. Our youngest daughter, Ruth, is 24. She lives at home with us still, but she also has developmental disabilities as well as mental illness. So life's a lot more challenging for her.
Ruth? Oh,
But I don't have to.
just try.
But I always think it'll be better.
I know, but it's good to try after you've eaten.
As I recall, I was, in some degree of denial. I think that's pretty typical. The speech delay was kind of a warning that development was not proceeding along as it should.
Of course, we were told that she's the second child, her sister's speaking for her, usual stuff. But we finally got her evaluated, and they told us that she had a significant speech delay, as well as probably some other problems. And over the next couple of years, as more was expected of her as she grew up, it became more clear what her deficits were. Ruth did really pretty well in school through about 8th grade. She developed bipolar disorder at that point. I used to jump every time the phone rang because I was sure it was the nurse or the assistant principal, and a lot of times it was, unfortunately. She really needed someone with her like every minute, and she would be upset, she would be angry, she would be sad, she would be crying, just a whole gamut of emotions. Even when she was able to go back to school and she was medicated, she was nowhere near, was not able to do anywhere near what she was before.
Stuff, you're okay with all that? Okay. All right.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
We came from a small place in Eastern Europe. It's called Moldova. It used to be part of Romania, then it was part of Soviet Union, and then finally it's independent. Dmitry was born in Moldova. He was not developing as other babies develop. He was not meeting the milestones. When he was supposed to sit, he was not able to sit up. From the beginning, when he was in ICU, he couldn't even cry like other babies cried.
Besides having a developmental disability and some physical disability, he also is deaf. And so his ability to communicate is impacted by his cerebral palsy, so that somebody who can sign may not understand his sign because his sign is impacted by the cerebral palsy.
Over there, if you're handicapped, there are no options. Either they will put you away, or you'll never be seen by the public.
We started thinking what else we can do to help our son and for him to have some future.
The reason why we came to the U.S. because for him the opportunities are here.
He can read lips, but most of the time the hearing world doesn't take that into account. So you don't look at him when you're talking. So he lives in the deaf world, and yet the deaf world who educated him doesn't really accept him because he's developmentally disabled. He had gone to a day hab when he graduated from the school that he was in. He transitioned. He went to a day hab. He was there 3 days. He says, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be with disabled people all day long.
He's not the person who is going to accept a step down. He's always on the go. He's always trying to do something more than we think he's capable of doing. If he's walking for 2 hours and you think that he's already tired, he can walk, he'll walk for another half an hour. And that's with everything what he does, just everything.
He'll never see a home or any of those state facilities because I've seen them, and they're not going to meet.
Rachel was born in 1984 and became diagnosed with autism in 1986. We were just beginning to face that kind of grief that comes from having a child who seems completely normal for such a while, and then having that sort of change on a dime to looking at a future that was really quite different. When she was about 8, she learned to use facilitated communication, which is a kind of typing.
There are people who are just on the verge of typing independently, but need a little support to help them get their thoughts across. And she's one of those people. For her, it's been a great boon, and for us, it's been a great boon, because she really makes her thoughts known.
She started to communicate about her own desires, which was something that we never really thought we would ever be able to hear from her.
The adult service world is, for the most part, is segregated. And they didn't want their adult children in segregated settings.
We really had no concept that any kind of programs existed for her. CSS was at that time a pilot program.
CSS, Consolidated Supports and Services, also known as Self-Determination, Self-Directed Services, or Individualized Initiatives, is an option for people with developmental disabilities to purchase their services with their Medicaid card through a self-designed budget and plan of care, outside of the institutional model of a day program or a traditional service model where the agency would then dictate the menu of service that is available to that person.
The simplest way to explain CSS and other self-directed services is that the individual has budget authority and employer authority. Budget authority means that the participant gets a monthly budget to spend on needed services. Employer authority means that the person has control over hiring staff.
That person is going to, with the help of a team, your family members, direct support workers, neighbors, people who share your interests and your passions, and you're going to decide how that money is going to be apportioned and decide how we're going to recruit people to actually support that young adult doing all of those activities.
Well, a circle of support all emanates from the individual themselves. They choose, they're the center of the circle, and they choose who's close to them, who do they really trust. For most people, it's their parents, a sibling, maybe an aunt or uncle. It could be the local baker who they've gone in to see every Sunday for the last 20 years, and they just ask. It could be an old teacher, but it's that whole circle of people that meet and help a person see what their vision is and help them come to that, how they want to live and what services they need.
We started meeting and identifying what their, where does this person want to be in a year? Where do they want to be 3 years from now or 5 years from now?
Because with any other child, it takes a village. So the community aspect is very, very strong. For individuals that may come forward that want the service that may not have a circle, we work with that person to identify a circle and design that circle specific to their needs.
When a family chooses CSS, they receive funding to hire someone to guide them through the process, which is different for everyone. The broker helps to create the circle of support and is responsible for the writing of the formal plan and budget. The circle of support does this by helping to create a person-centered plan that drives the person's daily activities and long-term goals.
The team leader's job is to help bring the group together who's going to make a plan for the individual. The most important person in the group, obviously, is the person for whom the plan is being made. Self-advocates have a saying, nothing about us without us, and that really is the basis of self-determination.
Some people feel that self-determination is only possible for those who can verbalize their choices and act independently. Michael Waymeyer, a professor at Kansas University Center on Developmental Disabilities and a partner at the National Gateway to Self-Determination, disagrees.
Fundamentally, being self-determined really has nothing to do with being in control. It's causing things to happen in your life.
And we identified what their needs were, we identified what their goals were, and then we started to put into place, identify now exactly what kind of supports would make this work.
This is to be focused on the individual with disabilities and what's good for them, not what's good for any professional or institution or group or structure. It's about what's for that person. She works at Walgreens, and we really had no thought that this would be something that she would like or be good at. Traditional supported employment programs really often have a minimum number of hours a week that people can work. And it's because most people with disabilities can get full-time jobs, and they may need a little support or a lot of support, but they can work full-time, and they should work full-time.
Manager to front, please. Samantha want to see you. Thank you.
People with the most significant disabilities and with emotional issues on top of that really universally can't do that. So they really tend to be shut out from traditional supported employment programs. Ruth got this job in Walgreens, and she really enjoyed it, and her supervisor in the cosmetics department really enjoyed working with Ruth.
I originally was working for the Elwood School District in special ed, and unfortunately we all got cut. And Walgreens was opening, and I was offered a position, a supervisor position in cosmetics, and I grabbed it. When I first met Ruth, which was over 3 years ago, we started out doing basic totes, but she would not leave her aisle. She would not venture anywhere other than where we started. And slowly, after about a year, we started moving from one aisle to the next aisle. So where Ruth would come in and open up a tote and do cosmetics, which is so difficult to do, She started doing the dental aisle, and and her fears started subsiding, and people started coming over to her and asking her, to help them.
After knowing her for about a year and a half, she quit being a supervisor at Walgreens and now supports Ruth and some other young people. It's the issue of shared interests, and that's really a critical part of this in looking for staff, that you really want people that share interests, because that makes for authentic relationships. Jean loves to cook, Ruth loves to cook, they cook together. We've had a couple of staff that we've had to let go, mostly of personality issues and interests, that she really had different interests. She had a different sort of approach to life that Ruth had, and it just didn't work out. If Ruth had been working with her in a more traditional program, that would have been it. She would be working with her.
And lunch is on.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, this'll work.
The nice thing about the bowling league is that it's a typical neighborhood bowling alley and a typical neighborhood bowling league.
We've been bowling here for about 3 years on and off. So it's really the community and the people that run the bowling alley that introduced us to this league.
She's new to the league. She just started this year. She started in September, and she's fit in very well, and everybody has really supported her and encouraged her to do well.
There's no special anything for her. Everything is just as they would do it for me or for anyone else, which is what encourages her and helps her. No, I'm not surprised. I'm sure it is.
Okay?
Very welcome, ma'am.
I'll take care.
The reason why he likes being outside in general, but more so on the tractor and the pool, because in the beginning, if he saw me, he was kind of holding on to me for support, but on the tractor or in the pool with a life jacket by himself, he doesn't need anybody. It gives him complete and total independence, and I guess a sense of, just being free.
We went to different places, and some of them rejected him without even evaluation, saying that he will need intense level of care and help. They need assistance. He needs to be one-to-one all the time. So they would not accept him. Most of the places where we are trying to get him a job or anything, the first reaction is to reject. So I called them. And I spoke from one person to her supervisor to another supervisor. And I just tried to explain to him how long my son is sitting home and doing nothing. A 21-year-old young man to sit home every day. And the plan was approved the very same day. Dmitry is the active member of this process of choosing people and working with them, because he's so perceptive, he's so sensitive. If he feels that he's neglected in any single possible way, he will complain and complain until we have to make a decision. We found Tricia, and she brought everybody else.
The job was described as helping him find things to do within the community, recreational activities.
We meet with them, we intervene then, and then after that they can start filling out the paperwork.
We were hiring staff, and we really were not successful with the staff. They were having a turnover, and he didn't like the staff. And that's another thing. If he's not going to like the staff, we'll really have a problem with the lack of, communication, what's going on. We then started to hire people who were fluent in sign language. What a miraculous, that was like an epiphany for us to say, wow, look at this.
He's using sign language. If somebody doesn't know signs, he types on the computer.
At first I did not understand him. His CP kind of restricts his movements, so it's difficult to comprehend what he's trying to say. We worked our way through that. Then eventually he got an iPad, and I told his parents about the ProLoQ system. He's using it. He's slowly using it. He's using it in speech. He's coming along. But it did take a while to understand and speak with him.
He has a basketball with the Special Olympics from 6:30 to 7:30.
Good.
It's one of the activities that he really needs help because he doesn't even walk by himself. But over there, he almost is running. Like 2 people are helping him, and he inspires everybody. They start like yelling, go Dmitry. So he's very competitive and he gets very excited. So he wants to be number 1. Even he cannot walk without the help, and he's almost running there and throwing the ball and doing whatever everybody else does.
This program started about 5 years ago, and we started with about 14 athletes, and now we're over 100.
Everybody behind the red line! Back up!
So the program really expanded tremendously since we started, and because there's a need for this type of program. Dimitri is an amazing young man. When I first saw him, I wasn't sure that he could participate in our program because most of our athletes are physically capable of doing some type of work. But after watching him on his first day, I was just overwhelmed with how enthusiastic he is and how much effort he puts into it. And he really does. Good job, Dimitri. Good job. There was one young lady who came to watch, and she didn't want to really participate. But Dimitri, I don't know, he picked up something about her. And he went over with the ball and started throwing her the ball. And she responded to him. And she threw the ball back to him. They did this for several minutes, bouncing the ball back and forth. And I just thought that was terrific. That was just such an inspiring feeling. It makes you feel so good, and then that makes you want to do this more and more. Ready? Okay. The box. Good job, Dimitri. One more time? One more time?
He sees a pretty girl and he wants to take a picture of her. So at the end of practice, I'll see what I can do. He's grown a lot, his strength. You see it when he's playing in basketball. Even when I come, they go, he never used to be like this. What are you doing with him on the weekends? Is he doing OT, PT? I was like, no, we go swimming. We walk around. We go to the gym. And you just see like the physical growth and the social growth as well. Hi. This is Dimitri. Hi, Dimitri. What's your name? I try to find people with special needs to meet on the weekends, whether it be lunch dates, trying to find an interest. It's just tough because not many people know sign language, but it works. You have to have a passion to seeing him incorporated into life, into the community, and having friends.
Agencies, by the way they structure it, have a lot of overhead. The people who actually do the service providing get paid very little. And we had to attract a very different kind of person, and it was difficult for the agency to provide us with people like that. I developed the Craigslist ad by thinking of all the adjectives that I could possibly put together in one sentence that would describe the person who would have to work with Rachel. Flexible, intelligent, compassionate, patient. They were all in there, along with a few more. And Vicki fit that bill.
Yeah. I looked for something in education, doing something I'd been doing before, and I found the ad to work with Rachel, came in. It was just like a perfect fit for me.
One of the things that you realize as a parent is that, you're someone who is drafted into this field. These are people who actually enlisted.
More recently, she's let us know through her typing that she's interested in something different. She's interested in farming.
We're going to be farming an acre of land at a state park called Planting Fields Arboretum. And we've brought together the pieces of what we need. The farmer who actually knows what they're doing.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Farmville?
Yes.
I've been working in this greenhouse since March. It's like some kind of immature centipede thing I've never seen before. Isn't that interesting? All those crazy animals that live in the soil. I've known Rachel now since around March. We're trying to actually grow food and incorporate the work of people who ordinarily wouldn't be given the opportunity to work in a garden like this. Primarily, we're trying to have a functional large garden that supplies food for people.
The thought was, why not set up a situation for her and for other young adults with autism and related developmental disabilities so they could participate in a farming experience. So we needed someone who understood farming. We wanted someone who either had experience with people with developmental disabilities or was not afraid to gain the experience.
I think good teachers are good at adapting to different teaching styles and teaching different people, especially when you're working with people who might have even physical limitations.
To start the farming season off, you need to start seedlings before it's warm enough to have them outside. So you need to have a greenhouse if you're really serious about farming in this climate. Luckily, we have a neighbor that has a greenhouse.
So we have been going to the greenhouse together and planting bean seeds so that this can be part of a project that she's going to be involved in this summer.
There are people with varying degrees of joy in terms of getting dirty. And some people who consistently refer to the soil as the dirt, because you know that that's their relationship with it. But they've all been willing to go with it because it's such a person-centered program.
Mostly she tells us what to do as far as where to put the seeds and everything like that, so she coordinates it a little bit with us. And sometimes when she loses focus, I jump in, but sometimes when she gets focused and she'll say step away, I'll step away. That's kind of the way that's a big part of our relationship.
It's very exciting because Rachel absolutely loves doing this, and this allows her to not only do something she enjoys, but to do this as an actual trade and to get involved with the community and with other peers and other adults.
She did a great job with the beans, and they're coming up really well, so you can't garden without plants.
If we didn't have this person-centeredness, the focus would always be on that agency that controlled the money. Wherever the money is, the attention is. As long as the person controls their money and their budget goes with them to the farm, the attention will always be on that person.
Sometimes when you listen to Ruth or watch Ruth function, you think she really knows what's going on. And and she does in a lot of arenas, but it's spotty.
Oh, you have what you...
Just think about how many people you have to meet to find a good friend. And think of the constricted number of people that most people with developmental disabilities get to meet. It's no wonder that they don't find people who they can develop close friendships. And, we really feel it's important for Ruth to meet and get to know as many people as possible. The friend thing is always somewhat difficult.
Making friends is one of my areas of interest and research, and I'm thrilled that people are now realizing that friendships are not something that just occur. All right, so how was everybody's weekend?
Good.
Very good. How about you, Ruth?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. No, can we show them the game?
You want to do the game?
Yeah, let's show
to
them.
decide who goes first? Sure.
Game.
Do you want to do it first?
No, show what it.
Who wants to do their fingers behind their back?
Somebody.
Me? That's usually a job I don't do, but I'll do it.
It's not.
Do you want me to do it, Jen?
Yeah.
Okay.
She has another friend, Jenny, who also gets services through New York Self-Determination Program.
Sunday, I hanged out at home, and then about 3:30, I went to change because I had soccer.
Oh.
Just big soccer.
Yeah, they have a natural friendship. They really do. They get along. Their parents are friends. They go to the movies together. They do different things. But one of the things we noticed is they would talk over each other. They would talk at each other. So one of the things I do when they come here on a Monday morning is the first thing we do is something we just made. It's called Round Robin. And we sit around the kitchen table, and we've learned to start talking about, what did you do this weekend? So last Monday, we were in Borders, and you were approached by, do you remember what she looked like?
A stranger.
Yeah, what did she look like? Jenny,
I don't
do you remember?
No. I don't remember.
She had red hair.
It's just never talked. The song singing.
Right.
Me up.
Never talk to strangers.
Safety is, if you don't have that, then everything else doesn't have much value. But then again, you don't really want to wrap your child in cotton batting and lock them in a room either. So, all of life really for everybody is really a balance between those two things.
Can't give her a lecture and say, do this, do that. It won't work.
Right. It needs ongoing reinforcement, and it needs to be brought out. It needs to be practiced in different contexts. And of course, it's a little bit hard thing to practice. You have to kind of set up a stranger to come and ask your kid. But Teresa does that.
I called up a college student, and I said, I need you. And they said, for what? I said, I need you to be a stranger. You've never seen her before, so she falls into this.
She asked me for my address and phone number.
Yeah. Now what did you?
I gave her my address and phone number. I was supposed to.
Those skills over time with all the practice have come a long ways, and it's great.
You would have to share this $20. Okay? If you were to split, now Jenny's going to get this whole thing.
Me? To take home?
If you walk Remy, to take home. What does $10 buy? Let's think about what you like to do. Out to lunch.
I whipped this
Jen? Why'd you rip my money?
I don't know.
Are you trying to tell me something? Use your words, please.
When Jenny is anxious, she sometimes expresses her feelings with destructive behavior. In the past, this interfered with her ability to explore new activities and make friends.
I want to take it out of the room.
I pulled up the salads.
Yeah.
Jenny, through the years, we had a period where I was pulling my hair out, her parents were pulling their hair out. We had one support staff after another who, quite frankly, didn't work out. We did an analysis of who are the people she really likes. What are their personality traits? Are they easygoing? Are they loud? And as we interviewed people, we started to feel that one or two of the people would do very well. Jenny liked them. She hired them, and we have had the same team now for several years.
She still has difficult moments, but because of skills she has developed using self-directed services and her desire to be with her friend Ruth, she is able to stop the behavior, discuss it, and move on with her day.
Is this good?
Yeah, it's fine.
One of the main goals in whatever we do with Dimitri is for him to have a productive life, not to feel isolated. Every day he has different activities. Everything is on the schedule. There's almost nothing that he does off the schedule.
He wanted to work more. He was looking into another volunteer site. I got him a position working at the Whaling Museum, which he has just started.
We're in the Whaling Museum in Cold Spring Harbor, New York. The museum itself is about maritime history on Long Island. We do school programs and teach kindergarten to 5th graders and above about the history of Long Island. We have programs where the kindergartens make puppets and we need supplies cut out, and for those programs we do birthday parties on the weekends, so we need volunteers to help make goodie bags. We need bags for the gift shop and they put our logo on the bags, so they're very helpful.
Most of the places where we are trying to get him a job or anything, the first reaction is to reject and not even to get involved as soon as they hear that the person is disabled. Whatever he has, we are very grateful. Like, for example, Stop and Shop, one of the very, very few places that accepted him from the get-go, and the manager there is very nice, very understanding, and, you know, she's willing to work with us. Dmitry works there 2 times a week for a couple of hours. Sometimes depends on the workload, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's longer hours. He has his own card. He has to check in and check out when he leaves, and he has a load of work. There are different products that are there that not being bought, that need to be brought back to the aisles. Because his visual memory is so good, sometimes the other workers approach them when he's one of the workers and they give stuff to them because they don't know where to put, and he knows. So he has a little basket in his scooter, so they put everything there. And he goes straight to the aisle. A lot of times, because of his physical disability, he cannot reach a certain place, so that's why the person is helping him, but he knows. He's the one who is directing where to bring all it up. And there are certain customers there that waiting for him because they love to see him working. There's one woman who specifically on Tuesday, she's waiting for him, and every time he comes home, she buys him like a chocolate or an apple, and she hugs him. He's a very, very, very hard-working person.
And people are very friendly, very supportive to him. They're very understanding, and he's a part of the team there.
Part of what happened with the medications is she gained a huge amount of weight. She gained about maybe 40 pounds. She was over 200 pounds, and it was very difficult for her. She was uncomfortable moving, and that kind of cascaded into a bunch of other body discomfort kinds of sensations for her. I was looking for things for her to do that would be different from the things that she had done before, that would be enjoyable for her, that wouldn't be something that was hard for her to do, that would be fun, that wouldn't be giving her rules and regulations. There was a running club called Rolling Thunder that I had heard about, and we started her in this wonderful running club, which was established for people with special needs, but also includes typical kids and typical adults, and they practice 3-4 times a week. When we initially started going, Ruth was really tired, and it was very difficult with all the medications, made her drowsy, and a lot of times we would drive halfway there and she would say, "Mom, I don't want to go to running. Mom, I don't want to go to running." And I really wanted to give her control of her life because she had so little control in the other parts of her life. And I would just turn the car around. This wasn't very fun for me, but I felt like I needed to do this for her.
When we got Ruth, if she could run from here to where Sue is, that would be a lot.
But eventually, as I thought she would, she really started to enjoy running, and that with some medication changes really, helped her health-wise. She lost weight, and she just really enjoys going to running, and it's, something that she's still doing. And running's a great sport because you can do it for your whole life.
She's run 10Ks. We're going to try her in a half marathon. Over the hurdle, put your feet up. Good, Ruth. Yeah, picking up the pace, Ruth. All right.
Good job. Keep going. Good.
Everyone has ability. They not run as a typical Special Olympics kind of setting. The athletes are supposed to perform. They have goals. They're pushed to exceed those goals. It's a really nice concept. The club itself is, respected because many of the athletes are really top flight, And then there are people who get cheered on just because they finish. And Ruth's in the latter group, but she finishes.
Oh boy. So what we'll do is we'll challenge her. Come on, you got 10 sets, let's go, get your feet up. Move, you got 10 sets, that's 3, let's go.
Ruth has found a love in running and participating in this running group. That was accessed because she had support staff who would go running at 7 o'clock at night, or, do a 5K on a weekend at, 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning.
Because every time you think you're teaching them, they're teaching you. Okay? No boundaries, no holes, just run. Just run.
Very good.
We started growing things in advance of getting the land because we just felt that we had to get things going, and if worse came to worse, we would tear up a couple of backyards and make a farm in that. It just so happened that I had attended a lecture here at Planting Fields, and the head of the Arboretum was taking people on a tour of the place, and someone with a disability literally bumped into him as he was giving this tour. And you could tell from that meeting that he was not really bothered by that. I said to him, "Have you ever had people with disability working here?" And he said that he had, and I said, "Well, how about having a farm of their own?" We were able to get an agreement from them so that we could use this piece of fallow land that doesn't get any use. We're growing food for the community. We're engaging people with developmental disabilities to come and be part of a really grand enterprise.
Wendy invited other young adults with developmental disabilities to work on the farm. Ian volunteers at least 2 days a week throughout the growing and harvesting seasons.
This year we've started a CSA, which is a community-supported agriculture plan, and we have 10 of Rachel's neighbors have signed on to give us a lump sum every month and receive vegetables every week.
Just can't wait to see year 2, because year 1 has just been way beyond my expectations. To watch these things grow and the people that are involved, it's been a great experience for me, for Linda, for Ian, for I think everyone involved.
I would say that for a first-year effort, this is pretty good.
In 2010, the Poughkeepsie Journal reported that New York was collecting over $4,500 per day for each person living in OPWDD-run institutions, sparking a federal audit of Medicaid payments. The following year, an in-depth series of articles in the New York Times documented shocking abuses in OPWDD-run facilities. People who committed these crimes often only received token penalties and were allowed to continue working with people with developmental disabilities. In response, Governor Cuomo appointed a new commissioner of OPWDD.
Courtney E. Burke is hereby confirmed as Commissioner of the New York State Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. Congratulations, Ms. Burke.
I was very surprised to know that there were such problems in the system, and it was very helpful, in fact, to have those articles come out, because it did point out where the system was breaking down. And so what we did as a result of seeing those articles, which were really stories about the bad things that happened, and that were really the symptoms of a much larger problem of not doing all the things that the agency needs to do. But the agency itself needed to make changes in how it was dealing with incidents and how we were investigating them. And, this is an ongoing process. We've made a lot of great progress, but I think there's a lot of things that we still have to do.
40 years since the conditions at Willowbrook first came to light, these recent abuses are startling proof that there is more work to be done. The system of residential and day services created to serve people leaving Willowbrook has remained largely unchanged. As a result, many people with developmental disabilities spend their lives in institution-like settings, located in communities but isolated from non-disabled people. Now, with an increasing population of people with developmental disabilities to serve and less money, OPWDD is moving to a managed care system using the People First waiver. The waiver's goals are to decrease costs through care coordination and other efficiencies, as well as to offer people a broader array of services.
It's very important to me. It's been a priority, as Catherine mentioned, since I got to this position, to hear the voices of individuals and family members about what you like about the system, what you would like to see be done differently.
Self-directed services like CSS are cost-effective and result in a better quality of life for people with developmental disabilities. Furthermore, because people are no longer isolated and invisible, they are safer.
A group of parents who have kids with disabilities, as well as some professionals who are involved in the areas who strongly believe in self-directed services and self-determination, really wanted to, first of all, tell other people about this opportunity because it's not been well publicized.
That particular group has been a part of what I call the Coalition of the Willing. They seem to be eager because they were really the mavericks, the predecessor to what we're looking at moving forward in terms of individualized services.
The adult service system is in a state of flux right now. There is an overriding understanding of the importance of self-determination, but the implementation of that self-determination is what we're trying to figure out.
OPWDD's People First waiver will be a managed care system funded by Medicaid and Medicare. The waiver gives New York State a way to be more flexible with the current Medicare system, allowing them to address concerns about the current system. From this waiver emerged DISCOs. A DISCO is a managed care organization. It will consist of nonprofit agencies that come together to coordinate and provide care for people with developmental disabilities. DISCOs will receive funds from OPWDD in return for making sure that services are delivered and people's needs are met.
Whatever happens with them in their life, the DISCO organization is responsible for paying for services to meet the needs, whatever their needs are. And then, so the DISCO has that amount of money, and then the DISCO works with the individual to sort of say, this is what I want my life to look like, these are the services that I want to support me in my life, and how are we going to make that happen?
If we write, a 6, 8, or 10-minute piece and stand up together and each read 2 minutes of it, we have a better chance of impact, because by the time you say, hello, my name is, I'm the parent of so-and-so, I'm from Long Island. Right, you have 45 seconds left.
We at the New York Self-Determination Coalition feel that it is our mission to help make sure that within this waiver, any individual with developmental disabilities who says, I want to help design my life, that should be allowed to stay just the way it is.
I don't care how it's called as long as the concept is going.
It's not going to be called because it's going to be part of something else. Right. But the question is, are you going to be able to really control the money and control the staff?
My son Jake is such a member of the community that he doesn't want to be a part of New York Self-Determination. He doesn't want to be known as anything other than Jake Hoffman, who loves rock and roll, who is an animal whisperer. I mean, the guy is incredibly skilled and talented with animals. He doesn't want to be pointed out as anyone different. He is a member of his neighborhood just like everyone else. We had all been feeling good about ourselves as a culture to kind of really applaud attaboy when people were doing something great, like fitting in a little bit. For Jake, don't applaud me for breathing and being who I am. Don't point out that somehow I'm different. How am I different? Here's the work that I do. Here are the friends that I have. Here are the relationships I enjoy. And I think his mindset should really be where we're all coming from.
We have a very good group, as you know, of self-determination parents, and they're working with us as we kind of evolve the system. Right now, services have a tendency to be driven by what's available, not necessarily what the individual or what the family want.
In order for something to be individualized, a person has to know what their rights are. They have to know what the service system has to offer, and they have to know that they have the right to choose what is appropriate for the individual who's being served.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Quinn, and I am a member of the New York Self-Determination Coalition. The quality of the life of people who are self-determined is so much greater. And the other thing is that it's ever-changing. There is so much change that goes on in a self-determined life. The rate in which they are accomplishing their valued outcomes, their dreams, happen so much more quickly. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, why can't everyone who wants a self-determined life have one? We see that in New York State, Long Island has done this successfully. There's over 100 people who have plans. There's more people who want plans. As people started to understand how incredible self-determination can be, they're buying into it. And, as I said before, we as a state should be buying into it because of its fiscal soundness and quality of life issues.
She works on an organic farm.
We did not want to have a traditional agency take over the farm and make a group home. We were interested in having people who are also self-determined in their lifestyle, who might choose to come on a farm and work on a farm and be part of that sort of lifestyle, to come together and create a farming community.
How lucky my daughter is that she has a program that changes with her and allows for her changing interests and capabilities. She does not have to have a life consisting of activities the group likes, when and where or for how long the group likes them.
I think he has a very, very happy life now. He's very happy. He feels very independent, and he's involved in a lot of activity. He's busier than me.
If you have something like self-determination, you don't have to deal with issues with the DAHAB, goals that professionals want to enforce on your child. It's what you want for your child and what your child wants for themselves.
Members of the New York Self-Determination Coalition really reject the idea that self-determination is a boutique program or only for easy kids. It's really individualized, so it is whatever works for whomever that person is.
For my daughter, we've just seen such an amazing growth in maturity and understanding, and this has just really exposed her to so many people that she never would have met. It's always a process of kind of letting go as a parent, and that's part, another issue of the whole transition process.
But having the flexibility to be able to let go, to be able to talk to the support person and say, hey, let's try this. Let's see if she can be successful. I don't think that would happen in a conventional job with a conventional support person who would be stuck to meet certain standards.
Like we closed institutions, and it's a constantly changing thing, we will get to the point someday in the United States, we will get to the point where the money will follow the individual, and they will be able to take their money and provide services and supports for themselves that allow them to have the best quality of life that they can at that moment, ever changing, with employer authority and with financial and fiscal soundness.